Welcome to the webinar Studies Abroad during COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Isabel, and me and my two colleagues, Ida and Baiba, work at the Division of External Relations at Lund University, and we will be your hosts today during this webinar. Baiba is in charge of the Q&A, and Ida is in charge of the technique. So if you have any technical problems during the webinar, please write to Ida in the chat. And today we have 4 students with us that are currently doing their exchange abroad. And we have architect student Andre in Milano, Italy, geology student Tobias in Heidelberg, Germany, political science and economics Pulkand student Ellen in Newcastle, UK, and development studies student Sarah in Bologna, Italy. Thank you all for participating in this event. We're looking forward to hearing your stories later in this webinar. We sent out the invitation to this webinar to all nominated students for autumn 21 and spring 22, including our colleagues at the faculties. And I can see now that we have 168 that has joined the webinar. Great to see you all. Unfortunately, we cannot actually see you, but we know that you're there. 171 taking up. Welcome you all. This webinar is targeting all you nominated students from Lund University who are about to go on an exchange this autumn 21 and or spring 22. Today's webinar will be about 45 minutes, and our students abroad will give short presentations about their experience doing an exchange during the pandemic. And you are very welcome to ask questions in the Q&A during the whole webinar. And the students and my colleague Baiba will answer the questions in the Q&A. All right, some information for you before we start with the presentations. The spring semester 21 is coming to an end, and departure for your exchange abroad is approaching. Given the current worldwide situation, general recommendations and new decisions can be made in Sweden or in the country you are going to at short notice. For many of you, there may still be a risk that the exchange cannot be carried through as originally planned. Lund University's approach to the pandemic is based on the recommendations from the Public Health Agency of Sweden, Folkhälsomyndigheten. And we are aware of the fact that it may be difficult to handle uncertainty or doubts about carrying through with your exchange when there are a number of certain factors involved. Remember that you are very welcome to turn to your coordinator or faculty for support if you have any questions about your specific case. So after the presentation, there will be some web links in the chat for you to our web pages, which contains information about before your departure. På svenska inför avresa. And please have a look at those web pages. It's important that you read through this information and also watch the films about different topics. For example, adapting to a new environment abroad, practical preparations before your exchange, and more. And also an important information is that the movie Your Insurance During the Exchange will be updated 1st of June. And an email will be sent to you when this movie is available on the webpage. And it's important that you watch this movie in particular because the terms and conditions for your insurance student out through Kammarkollegiet will change from 1st of July 21. And the main changes in the terms and conditions for this student out insurance is that it will not be valid in your home country. And another change is concerning travel advisory from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Sweden. There are 2 different categories of advice, all travels, alla resor, and non-essential travels, icke nödvändiga resor. If the Ministry of Foreign Affairs advise against all travels to a country or a part of a country, then the student out insurance will not be valid in that country or region. However, if the advice is for non-essential travels, the insurance is still valid. Should the travel advisory be introduced during your exchange abroad, the insurance student out is valid for a transition period of 30 days. Should you need to cancel your exchange when abroad, please contact Kammarkollegiet or Falk Global Assistance before the journey home starts. If you do not contact them, a compensation might not be paid for costs. It's very important that you read the terms and conditions for the insurance, as the insurance might only cover additional costs for the journey home. And due to this, is very important that you note, you should always buy a ticket that can be canceled or rebooked. Please stay updated with your faculty's specific information. They may cancel nominations should the Ministry of Foreign Affairs advise against travel. It is also important that Lund University can reach you through your student email listed in your student portal in Ladok. Also check your spam filter frequently if something ends up there by mistake. And it's very important to inform your coordinator if you change your email or have any problems with it. All right, so Lund University Abroad on Instagram is run by LU students that we call the exchange ambassadors. And they could not, unfortunately, not join us today, so I will say a few words about their fantastic work. The Lund University Abroad account on Instagram aims to inspire students to study, do an internship or field study abroad while a student at Lund University. All year round, they have guest grammars, in other words, takeovers by students abroad on a weekly basis, live streams with students and staff on relevant themes, posting alumni interviews and having exciting competitions. Right now, they're also working on a video about the application process for exchange studies. If you don't already follow the account on Instagram, please do so. And please contact them if you would consider guest gramming for the account during your exchange, showing your everyday life abroad. They are looking for students to guest gram this autumn. So we'll start with the architect student, Andre in Milano, Italy. Yes, we can see it.
I presume we can. Okay. So actually, I'm not in Milan just now. Today, I took the train to Venice. I think that's one of the perks of being in a country, a touristic country, maybe during an exchange, that you can go to these otherwise touristic places and there won't be as many tourists. So definitely a perk, I would say. Let's see if I can. When it comes to education, Italy is divided into 3 different zones, just in general with the restrictions for COVID. It's red zone, orange zone, and yellow zone. When I came to Italy, it was constantly changing. So red zone is a total lockdown where you can only go out to buy food pretty much, and then orange zone is where most shops are closed down, and then yellow zone is quite open, which it is now. So that also affects the education. It looked like it was going to be yellow zone when I came down, and it had been red zone for a while, so it was kind of uncertain. I had to do some testing before coming, but it was never checked, and some paperwork, but it was never checked either. But I came down in orange zone, so you could go out to restaurants, and the education was 50% present and then 50% distant. So every other class pretty much would be on the campus. Later it turned into red zone, and the whole education was switched to distant mode. And right now we're in yellow zone, and everything is looking good with the vaccination. So I think we'll stay in yellow zone. And to me, it's almost just nice that they record every lecture, and you also you can work from home. You're more free. You can start cooking while you're working. For the courses and assignments, I have six courses, or 6 different classes, which is a lot more than we have in Sweden. And the workload is much higher also than in Sweden. But having the education from a distance, I think is a good thing, because, as I said, you can rewatch things online. If you have social events, then you can prioritize them and then take the classes afterwards, and you're more free in a way. But then having group works where maybe some people are in China and you're in Europe, with the time differences, that can be a difficult thing. But I know that Italy will change to only present lecturing for the next semester. So maybe other universities will too. And I don't know if you have time to read, but these are the courses I'm taking. As for social life, I would say it's been really good. I think maybe architecture is more social than other kinds of education, since it's often group based and you work with models, like making models together, and it's not so much being isolated on your own computer. But then being able to have video calls with family and friends, it's been great. This is some daily recommended intake. So yeah, I found a running group which I hang out with quite a lot, and then right now I'm out traveling with some friends from my course, my studio course. And yeah, probably you might get housemates. That's also a good thing, where you can get friends. And also, if you can sign up for the social programs. We have a buddy system. I have a buddy, but I never met him because I didn't really have time. And also ESN, European Student Network, is also working a lot to have activities and yeah, working with the social aspects. Yeah, I think that pretty much summarizes it. I'm really happy that the education is 50-50 because it gives more freedom, and also you have that social aspect. So to me, it's only been a beneficial thing to have the distance teaching apart. And yeah, Milan is also quite open enough, I would say. Yeah, that's about it.
Great, thank you so much, Andre. Very interesting to hear. And please take the opportunity now to write questions in the poll Q&A, sorry, for Andre. You can go in and answer there. All right, so next student to present is geology student Tobias in Heidelberg, Germany. Hi, Tobias. Please tell us about your exchange.
Hi. Yeah. So my name is Tobias, and I, as you heard, I study geology in Germany. Yeah, the reason why I decided to go was because, well, before the pandemic, I wanted to get to study abroad and to get some more experience, even though I've already lived in Germany before and I speak the language. So maybe not the best choice, but yeah, you know, still it's an experience. Yeah, so it's been quite different because the studies in Heidelberg, at least the geological courses or the geology courses, they've all been online or as a video. So basically, what I've been doing is sitting at home, watching videos, which isn't great. Being a geologist, I mean, when you study geology, you have to be outside a lot, so it's not great. But I mean, they do enough to make it, yeah, to make it good enough. And the social aspect, meeting friends and so on. In Heidelberg, it hasn't really been that big of a problem because you have like buddy programs, and then the university had some sort of speed dating, but for friends instead, which was quite fun. There were some technical difficulties, unfortunately, but you know, it worked out quite well. Yeah, no, so I met a few Germans and a few other international students. So the social life is quite okay. And yeah, it's like I said, it's still difficult, you know, because I live in my own student apartment, so I don't really get that much social interaction, unfortunately. And that is, yeah, you know, that kind of sucks, but yeah, anyway. And my expectations, I expected things to be somewhat normal. For example, being able to attend lectures and participate in activities. But we haven't really gotten anything of that so far. But to be fair though, things are looking better and they are opening things up. So, you know, fingers crossed. And extra specific costs because of the pandemic. I think the only thing you have to worry about is like the PCR test, at least if you go to Germany. That was the main financial, how should I say, financial output. It wasn't, you know, everything else was, you know, okay, it wasn't really, you didn't really have to pay that much. I did have to, before the pandemic, you know, I could just, you know, take a flight down to Stuttgart and then take the train to Heidelberg, but you can't really do that now. So you have to really plan everything, and it takes a lot more time and yeah, like I said, a little more expensive. But the main financial output, like I said, is the PCR test, which costs around 2,000 Swedish crowns, something like that. Yeah, my advice is to not get your own apartment, but to, you know, apply to a to having a roommates or flatmates, because I feel like I've talked to some people and they feel like that was the best choice they made in terms of living arrangements. And I mean, yeah, there are also downsides to it, but especially in a pandemic where social interaction is quite limited, I would advise to have roommates if possible. And yeah, that's about it from me.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting to hear. And I think that's a good idea to have, try to get roommates if you can. Next presentation we're going to have is from Ellen in Newcastle, UK, Political Science and Economics Pool-Cand student. Ellen, hi.
Hi, yeah, I'm going to try to share my screen now then.
Yes.
I started my journey already in December. I came to London first in December, only because I I had to come before Brexit. So if I wanted to, don't have to worry about any kind of visa situation, I had to be in the UK before, what was it, 31st of December. So that's why I went quite early and did the rest of my semester, like the autumn semester from Sweden, online, because it was already online. And like, if I didn't know by then if my exchange was going to happen, if I was allowed to come to Newcastle and study. But so I was planning on being in the UK and doing modules from Sweden online. So I've applied for that as well. But then I came up to Newcastle 2 weeks before my my university lectures started. So in about mid-January. Anyway, as you can see, there's 2 pictures of the university buildings I haven't attended because everything has been online. Yes, I've only done everything online basically, and the library's been open, but since UK has had quite strict COVID restrictions, everything was online. Yes, it wasn't when I came to London first, there was no lockdown, and that happened whilst I was in quarantine for 10 days. Yeah, so since end of December, it's been complete lockdown all the way to 26th of April when normal shops open and you can do things other than food shopping, really. And now everything's opening up and pubs have opened up and it's starting to go back to normal. And they didn't offer that many. I was a bit surprised by the limited amount of modules that was offered as coming on the spring and being an exchange student. So they gave me the offer if I wanted to study postgraduate modules with no requirements. So actually I've done that now this semester, which it's been hardest because I'm an undergraduate student in Sweden, but also very very fun to kind of see how far my my knowledge can take me. All the assignments have been essays, so I haven't had any exam, even though it was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be like exams. But yeah, so I lived first in university accommodation for about 2-3 months, and then I'd met a few friends up here, and I got it's not common that you can get out of the university contract because you this just doesn't happen. But I think I was allowed to get out of the contract because of COVID, and so I moved in with my friend now, and I would suggest to kind of look at other options than just university accommodation, because I think you can maybe meet people your own age. I was the oldest one. I'm 23, and there were first year students, 18 years old, living with me in university accommodation. So I would really suggest to not be afraid to go and find your own house outside of the university, and it might even be cheaper or roughly the same price. I'd never been to Newcastle before, but it's been really nice. It's close to, you can go by train to Edinburgh and Manchester, and it only takes about 2-3 hours maybe. And from no, maybe not 2-3 hours, maybe 1 hour. And from London, the train took 3 hours. So it's quite you can go anywhere really when it's not COVID restrictions. I think that's it. Try and stop sharing my screen.
All right, thank you so much for that. That's very interesting to hear. Great. So if you have any questions now for Ellen or the others, please write in the Q&A, and you guys who are not presenting, you please go to the Q&A and answer.
Oh yeah, I saw that I have a question now about Newcastle rent. So I think I got one of the not most expensive, but it was 100. I think they've increased the prices now actually, but £140 per week, and I stayed in a flat with 7 other people. It was quite like a fresh place, I would say. And yeah, I got my own like shared kitchen, shared living room, but own bathroom and shower. And yeah, so it was about 140 per week. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And don't hesitate to write more questions in the Q&A. All right, so now the next presentation we're going to hear, the last one, is from Sarah, who is a development studies student in Bologna, Italy. So hi, Sarah.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen first. So can you see the presentation? Okay, great. So as you've heard, my name is Sara. I'm studying at University of Bologna in Italy for Erasmus exchange. At Lund University, I'm studying Bachelor in Development Studies, and this is my second year. So I would like to tell you more about like the positive and negative sides of doing an exchange during the pandemic. I know it's really hard for you to decide right now whether you want to go or you don't want to risk it. And I was in your situation last year. I was sitting there and trying to make a decision, and I've probably changed my decision like 10 times during the whole year, trying to figure out which one will be the best or whether I should go or not. And honestly speaking, from my experience, I'm really glad that I made the decision to go on exchange, because I think I would miss out a lot, and this experience has been really like very, very fun and very interesting for me. So one of the positive things about doing an exchange, of course, is generally like it's new experiences, new friends, new people, culture. It's a lot of new feelings, and I think it's like something that every student should do once going on an Erasmus or just a general exchange to another country. But from negative side, it's a little hard during the pandemic because you will have a lot like some extra expenses. First of all, I'm a non-EU citizen. Therefore, there have been like I've come here from Kazakhstan. I went during the New Year to Kazakhstan, and like from my own country, and therefore I had to like quarantine upon arrival for 2 weeks. So if you're traveling from Europe to Europe, you don't have to quarantine for 2 weeks. But because I was coming from a non-EU country, I had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and I had to pay a lot of money for that because I couldn't quarantine in the accommodation that I booked. And also like COVID tests, visa process. I had to apply for a visa, so it was a lot of extra expenses for me. But of course, it depends on you. If you're traveling from Europe to another European country, expense is going to be less. But if you're planning to go to Asia or some like a non-European country, you have to consider all these expenses. And then another thing that is negative is the risk, because there is always a risk that it will be cancelled and you will lose your accommodation at Lund or something like that, or you will just everything will be complicated. So that was one of the things that I've thought a lot about. I didn't want it to be risky. I didn't want to lose my accommodation because I had a nice place at Lund and etc. But yeah, another positive thing is that university life-wise, it has a very beautiful campus. We had some few in-person seminars compared to another students, Andre from Italy. We didn't have much online or in-person classes because I'm studying political science and we don't have like much in practice stuff going on. That's why we only had in-person seminars like once a week, which was actually good, and it just started like a few weeks ago. And there is an interesting curriculum. You take a lot of different classes that you don't have at Lund University, and that's like some change. But from the negative sides, online studying mostly, again, like 70% of studies I did online, and it can be a little complicated because there's a new education system, new curriculum, and figuring it out online without knowing people that you can ask, it can be a little tough. And again, there was a workload was a little harder than in Sweden, so that was one of the minuses as well. Okay, yeah. And from the positive sides, again, studying in Italy, well, you have all heard about beautiful cities, the travel experience. So one of the best parts is that I'm also going to Venice this weekend, as Andres there already. So one of the biggest part pluses is that you can travel, you can see new beautiful cities, sites, the weather is nice, new culture, new knowledge, all these experiences in total can be really great. And I think it's actually worth going through the risks and expenses just to experience a lot of new things. But from the negative side, there are restrictions. Italy has just kind of loosened its restrictions for the past few weeks. Before that, we couldn't travel and we had to stay indoors and everything was closed. So yeah, that's another minus. Okay, so my advice for those who are planning to go on exchange next year, first of all, keep yourself updated on restrictions, because they're always going to change. So you would like to know what's going on in the country. Try to understand what's going on. Local newspapers, etc. Read about it. Read some blogs, etc. Just to know what's going on in the country and if it's actually worth going there. Second thing, find a person or a few people from the university that you're visiting, so you can ask actually what it's like there. Because before coming here, I've contacted a girl I found from the email. I just emailed the university, got some contacts, and texted her to know what the situation is like. Because before that, I really had no idea, and that was really complicated. Like, should I go there or shouldn't I go there? Like, what is it like? So texting her really helped me out. And when I came here, I had a friend already that I can meet, and she will show me around. So that was a good thing. Third thing, of course, get clothes up properly for the weather. I think that was my mistake. That's why I added it here, because yeah, it was kind of colder than I expected, so I didn't have much clothes for the cold weather. And fourth, learn the language at least a little bit and have some extra money, because again, because of COVID, there can be some things that you didn't take into account. So it's good to have some extra money. I mean, sometimes you will not be allowed for the plane, for example. In my case, that was my case. I wasn't allowed to the plane because I didn't read carefully. So I had to stay for a few more days for leaving. And you know, it's just like you have to keep those things in mind because things are harder right now. And the last advice is, I think you should be bold and just go for it. If you really want to experience new stuff and experience the student life fully, I think you should go for it. I mean, it can be risky, yes, but I think it's worth it because, you know, the experience, all the stuff going on in the foreign country is so much fun and so interesting. I think every student should experience that. That's why my advice for you, go for it. But yeah, you know better. Yeah, that's it for me. If you have questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Sarah. That was really interesting to hear. And it's so nice. I happen to know that you're on the balcony, so it's so nice with the wind in the here. It feels like summery.
It feels so Italian.
So we're very happy that so many have been with us today. We have 143 with us now. It was a little drop there, but still very many have stayed the whole time. So I hope it's a sign that it was interesting. We're very happy that you all could attend, all panelists, Ellen, Sarah, Tobias, Andre. I ask you all to just stay with us a little bit longer after the webinar so we can thank you properly with Barbara and Ida. But with that said, thank you for today. This is if you have still something going on in the Q&A, you're welcome to stay. But for all of you, the rest, I wish you a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the sun before the rain comes. It's going to be both of it this weekend, I've heard. So thank you.